With the conversation, you are going to meet Lindsay and Danny, my wonderful neighbors, and immerse yourself in our real life conversation. Let's watch.
Hi, everyone. I'm here with my lovely neighbors, Lindsay and Danny, and we're going to be talking about your guys' experience living in big city, New York, growing up in different places, and now living somewhat rurally in the country, kind of comparing those experiences. And I think my students will have a lot to say about this because everyone lives all over the world. So let's start at the very beginning. Can you tell me, where did you grow up? Like, what was it like where you grew up? I don't know who wants to start, but
I'll go first.
Okay.
I grew up in Manhattan in New York. And that was all I ever knew. So very normal for me. But as I've learned later on, it's very different than a lot of people I know where they grew up. But, you know, I grew up living in an apartment building. I shared an apartment with my family. And I was on my floor of my apartment had maybe like 30 other people. I was on the 10th floor of a 16th floor apartment building.
Okay. Did you have an elevator?
I did have an elevator.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know a lot of New York apartments are like walk up.
No, that would be a lot to go 10 floors. But yeah, so there was a lot. I lived on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, which is kind of a residential neighborhood. Yeah. There was a park pretty close by along the East River. So there was a long promenade that we would walk on. And I also went to Central Park a lot, which is kind of the main big park in Manhattan.
Cool.
So that was kind of my, outdoor space.
Yeah, which I imagine is really different from growing up elsewhere.
Yeah, no yard.
Yeah.
Nothing like that.
So if you wanted to go outside, did that mean that you had, like, your parents had to go with you, or were you allowed to go alone to the park? So
good question.
Independence that happens.
I think when you live in the city, you get more freedom earlier because you don't have to drive. So, when we're very young, yes, parents would have to like bring us places, but I think by like middle school time, 10 years old, we're going with friends, walking around the city. Going to parks, going to like restaurants and stuff like that.
Okay, I would have been very envious of that as a middle schooler.
Yeah.
So tell me, Danny, I know you didn't grow up in New York. Where did you grow up, and like what was that environment kind of like? I feel like it's maybe similar to mine.
I grew up in Ohio, a suburb of Cleveland, called Beechwood, and it was the classic suburb where all of the houses were very similar sizes. We all had a yard, a front and a backyard, sidewalks and nice, like evenly sized, like blocks.
Okay.
And then we had to drive everywhere. So
was there anything you could walk to?
There was a gas station.
Okay, fine.
And that was about it.
Okay.
You could walk to your school, I think, right?
The only school that I could walk to was it was called Hilltop, and it was like 3rd through 6th grade.
Okay.
And so once I was like old enough, like 5th or 6th grade, I would walk, but we had different schools for after 6th grade, like middle school, and then a different school for high school, and those were all too far.
Very much like a driving culture,
very
which
much.
I think is more standard in the U.S.
Yeah.
than your experience.
Yeah.
So at what age do kids just ride the subway by themselves?
It kind of varies. I didn't start going up by myself until high school.
Okay.
I also didn't really need to go by myself until high school, but yeah, then I would like ride the subway to school with friends.
Okay, and maybe that's different now too.
Probably a little different.
I imagine.
There's also like I went to high school in a completely different borough than where I was living. So I went to school in the Bronx, which required the subway. So that's a long commute.
Yeah. How long did that take you to get
an hour.
As a high schooler?
As a high schooler, yeah.
What do you do as a high schooler in the subway to like entertain yourself?
You're usually traveling with a group of friends.
Oh, that's fun.
So that's pretty fun. But you know, like, I don't know. I remember doing homework on the subway and stuff because you had like an hour to kill.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds kind of nice. Like, I think living in the city, you miss nature, but
you miss a lot of
nature.
As
a teenager, that independence is like the thing that everybody wants.
Yes.
And maybe it's more possible.
Yeah.
Be like little adult earlier,
for
maybe.
sure. For sure. Definitely.
So I'm curious for you guys. Now you live here in Asheville.
Mm-hmm.
When did you first start to think about moving or like leaving the city? Because you guys met in New York.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I guess that we could back up. At what point did you move to New York?
So I moved after college for a job.
Okay.
And then how long was I there? A couple of years before I met you.
Yeah.
And coming from Ohio to New York, like I wouldn't say overwhelmed, but I knew that this wasn't like what I wanted for like forever.
Okay.
And so when we met, like I was pretty like honest, and I said, you know, like I don't think that I see myself here forever. I'd like to like move eventually.
Okay.
At the time, I was like, New York forever.
But you were like, I love Danny. Yeah, it's okay. We'll figure it out.
Exactly. He had to like slowly convince me, which like I think we both had actually never really hiked before meeting each other, and we kind of got into nature together.
Sweet.
So we started like vacationing and like hiking and kind of seeing the outside world a little bit more and realizing like, oh, New York City has none of this to offer.
We took a lot of road trips to like Maine, and there's like, you know, national parks and things like that.
Yeah.
That was how we were vacationing.
You're sneaky, like, I'm going to show Lindsay other places and maybe she'll want to move.
It worked out.
Well, I gotta say, I think like more so than me, Lindsay really loved the outdoors and like just the fresh air.
Did. Yeah.
So it wasn't hard to convince her.
Yeah, it was just like within you somewhere.
Yes, it was there. It was there.
Great work immersing yourself in that clip of a real-life conversation with 3 native English speakers. It's kind of easy to just understand my voice alone during these lessons, but when you add one extra person and then another extra person, this can really make it a little more difficult to understand. So with this conversation breakdown method, it will be much easier to understand, and you will be amazed at how your listening skills and your speaking skills improve. So let's go to the second part of today's lesson, which is immersing yourself by learning 3 key vocabulary phrases. You're going to see my husband Dan and I helping you to learn how to use those words in your daily life. And these words were used in the conversation you just saw. Let's watch. Are you ready to get started?
I'm ready.
All right, let's get started with the first phrase.
Ooh. To have an hour or to have time to kill. And this doesn't mean you're killing anything. It just means that you have time that is not scheduled. It is time that you have free to do anything that you want. Although sometimes you might be kind of like stuck. So the example that comes to my mind is if you're in line somewhere, or you're at the airport and you have somewhere that you are, but you can't go and do something. So you just have time to kill. So if you're in the airport and you're waiting for the airplane, you might say, oh, I have time to kill, I'll read this book. Or, oh, I've got an hour to kill, so I'll call my mom, for example. So this is time that you don't have something specific to do. You just have to wait, or you have a gap between some kind of scheduled event. You might say, I have time to kill.
Yeah, I like that distinction that you're kind of forced to have free time.
Yes.
Because you're waiting for something, but it's not happening now. So I have an hour to kill until this event. I can't go off and do something else. I have to just be a little bit careful about what I do during that free time. And that's how it was used in the conversation. Lindsay was talking about her commute to school on the subway, and she said it took an hour, which to me sounds like a long time.
To kill.
It's also a long time to go to school. Like, that's a long commute. In the rest of the US, if you said your school was an hour away, I know Americans are known for driving long distances, but that's a long time to get to school every day. But for her, she seemed kind of normal about it. She just said, well, you know what? I did my homework because I had an hour to kill.
Yeah, and you can actually use your hands in the subway. That's nice.
Yeah, when you're driving, you can't do homework. So she was kind of saying that she adapted to that scenario. She couldn't really do very much during that free time, but she could do homework. And, that doesn't sound that bad. Having a forced hour of doing homework.
Yeah.
Okay. Not too bad.
I kind of want an hour to just sit there and do nothing.
Yeah. I guess that's what our kids do when you drive them to school.
Yep.
They have 30 minutes to kill and you're forced to drive.
I drive Theo to work, to school and work for me every day. And he seems to enjoy that ride. And we have time to kill. We have 30 minutes to kill. And so we listen to an audiobook usually. Or sometimes we listen to music. Or sometimes he's coloring or writing back there. He's always doing something. I guarantee that.
Very active child.
Yes.
All right, let's watch the original clip so that you can see how an hour to kill and a time to kill was used. Let's watch.
I don't know. I remember doing homework on the subway and stuff because you had like an hour to kill.
Yeah.
I don't know. I remember doing homework on the subway and stuff because you had like an hour to kill.
Yeah.
The third vocabulary phrase is to see myself or to see yourself. And here we're not talking about looking in the mirror. It's a little more figurative than that. We're talking about imagining yourself in a certain place or time in the future. So, for example, in the conversation with Lindsay and Danny, when they met, Lindsay was a lifer in New York. She had lived forever in New York and she had no plans of going anywhere else or moving anywhere else. But Danny had come into New York and was living there. And he said he was honest with her and just said, you know what? I don't see myself living here forever. I would like to move at some point. And that's really great. That's a good beginning of a relationship, some honesty. But he used that expression to see myself. I don't imagine myself living in New York forever. And I think that's a really common and great way to use this.
Yeah. So you can use it in the negative sense like that. Like, I can't see myself staying in New York forever. But you can use it the other way too. Like, I can see myself moving to the mountains near Asheville. Wouldn't that be nice? For me personally, I often use this in the negative. For example, if there is a car I didn't want, like, let's say a Tesla Cybertruck, I might say, I can't see myself, or I can't really see myself driving a Cybertruck. I might look a little awkward in it. Maybe everybody does. I don't know. But I could see myself in a Tesla Model 3, maybe, if I want to go the electric route. But most likely I'm going to drive a Honda Civic.
Okay, so we're going from absurd car to like slightly less absurd to very normal.
Exactly. Actually, the reality is I can really only see myself driving a minivan for the rest of my life.
Minivan for life.
How about you? What vehicle do you see yourself in 10 years from now?
Well, I think I can see myself driving the same cars that we have now because
Whichever one is the easiest.
I hate shopping for cars and doing research, which usually that's your job. And
I'm car guy.
And we have a Toyota, and a Toyota car lasts forever. So that's the dream, hopefully. So I can see myself driving the same car, I think.
The van?
I hope so. Yeah. I mean, in 10 years, our kids, Matilda is going to be 11 years old. That's still a child. We're still going to be hauling around lots of stuff and kids, and it's going to be kid life still.
I can personally see myself updating the car a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can see some kind of dragster out there. That'd be pretty exciting.
Well, maybe that's something we can talk about in the future. Well, let's watch the original clip so that you can see how to see yourself was used in the conversation. Let's watch.
And so when we met, like, I was pretty like honest, and I said, like, I don't think that I see myself here forever. I'd like to like move eventually.
Okay.
And so when we met, like, I was pretty like honest, and I said, like, I don't think that I see myself here forever. I'd like to like move eventually.
Okay.
The next expression is to have something to offer. And you can use this in both the positive or the negative way. For example, you can say, he has a lot to offer, which is kind of generally saying that this person can help you in some way. So if you're hiring somebody, you might say, oh yeah, I think Dan has a lot to offer here. So you're not really saying specifically what he or she could do, but you're saying that they can bring something to the table that would, there's another expression, something to the table that will help you in some way. But you can also use it in the negative way. So, yeah, Dan over there, he's got nothing to offer us. He's not going to help. He's actually going to hinder us a lot. Keep him away from this company. Thank you very much.
Oh my, that would be quite extreme.
Well, we won't say Dan. We'll say Sam.
Okay, Sam. Yeah, we're definitely talking about Sam.
Sam.
So in the conversation with Lindsay and Danny, they used this in the negative sense. They were talking about all the things that they liked that were not in New York. They like hiking, being outdoors, and they realized that New York City had none of those things. They've already named those things. New York City had none of those things to offer. So the phrase for all of these variations is exactly the same. We're just swapping out one word. To have none of this to offer, to have nothing to offer, to have something to offer, or to have a lot to offer. And this is a great phrase you can use in an interview. So Dan used this in a negative way. Don't hire him. He has nothing to offer. But if you want to get hired, you could go to the interview and in that interview process say, I have a lot to offer this company. You're not saying, here's my specific skills yet. You probably should say that at some point. But when you say, I have a lot to offer, you're really saying, I have a lot of skills that I can use to help this company. But we can also use that in daily life in those other phrases as well, to have nothing to offer. I hope that I have something to offer you with this course.
Yeah, I believe that the Fearless Fluency Club has a lot to offer you.
Oh, yeah, I hope so too. Yeah, maybe you were taking other English courses in the past and you realized that now they have nothing to offer you because you have learned everything that they could teach you. And now when you studied Vanessa's lessons, you realized, oh, this has something to offer me. This has a lot to offer me. I hope that that's true for you. All right, let's watch the original clip from the conversation so that you can see how none of this to offer was used. Let's watch.
So we started like vacationing and like hiking and kind of seeing the outside world a little bit more and realizing like, oh, New York City has none of this to offer. So we started like vacationing and like hiking and kind of seeing the outside world a little bit more and realizing like, oh, New York City has none of this to offer.
Great work learning those 3 daily life English phrases that you heard in the real conversation with Lindsay and Danny. Thank you so much to Lindsay and Danny for letting me share this conversation with you. And now I want to invite you, if you enjoyed this type of lesson where you get access to real conversations, broken down vocabulary that we really use in daily life, plus we also have phrasal verb lessons and monthly pronunciation lessons. We also have weekly live stream lessons with me so that you can directly ask me any questions that you want. And many students meet together on Zoom so that they can practice speaking together. Every Sunday, a wonderful group gets together and speaks to use and practice what they have learned. Right now for Black Friday, I am offering a huge discount, a 55% discount on the lifetime membership of the Fearless Fluency Club. You will get lifetime access to over 235 English lessons, over 45 natural conversations, weekly live streams with me, and weekly Zoom calls with other English learners so that you can connect and use what you're learning. To get this limited time Black Friday offer, you can just click on the link in the description to learn more about the Fearless Fluency Club and join me. Continue learning real English every single day. Well, thank you so much for learning English with me. And I want to know in the comments, tell me, where do you live? Do you live in a big city? Or do you live in a small town or the countryside? Where do you live? Let me know in the comments. I can't wait to learn more about you. And I'll see you again next Friday for a new lesson here on my YouTube channel. Bye! But wait, do you want more? I recommend watching this video next, where you will be able to continue to immerse yourself in real life English. My husband Dan and I answer your questions that you asked us about daily life here in the US, and you will be able to learn a lot of daily vocabulary